The first entry in the WWE Smackdown vs. Raw series to grace the Nintendo Wii, Smackdown vs. Raw 2008, was an attempt to take advantage of the wiggle control capabilities of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck combination. In other words, performing strikes, grapples, taunts, and a multitude of other maneuvers by waggling your remote in conjunction with pressing the A or B buttons. And indeed, a lot of things in this game are based on waggling. It was an admirable effort, but the flimsy response time and the overall lackluster package made it a less than desirable game. And I still feel this way despite some people's reaction to the contrary. Fast forward a year later and we have WWE Smackdown vs. Raw 2009 on the Nintendo Wii. It's still pretty much the same deal as the previous game, all waggle all the time, and unfortunately the response time is still less than inspired at times. Some motions require a couple waggles and or swipes before registering. The game still has you spinning the little nunchuck stick to hold or escape submission maneuvers, which breaks the flow because I generally have to use my other hand to spin the stick on the opposite hand. And again, waggle would have been nice in this regard. In fairness though, it's not a completely lost cause. While response time isn't great, it felt a little better here than in the previous game, and when it came to the new modes of play, control doesn't generally feel too bad. It works, more or less. Not great, but it works. It's a small step up if nothing else, and there is some fun to be had admittedly. I could hardly say the same for this game's immediate predecessor. Whereas the 2008 iteration only featured a handful of match types, and even that's something of an exaggeration, Smackdown vs. Raw 2009 actually gives you a good chunk of game modes. Nowhere close to the par of what you'd get on the high-definition consoles, don't be silly, but closer to what you'd get on the PlayStation 2 at least. So you've got your usual array of tag team, steel cage, ladder match, hell in a cell, hardcore, extreme rules, Royal Rumble, etc, etc, etc. Instead of a bare-bones career mode, you have a much more involved one, and you even got the Road to WrestleMania mode where you pick one of several superstars and go through their own personal Road to WrestleMania. As an aside, I never cared for Road to WrestleMania, but most people seem to like it, so it's a bit of extra meat to the package, I suppose. If you're wondering how the motion controls work in regard to the various gimmick matches like the steel cage bouts or the like, they take a little getting used to get the timing and the motions down, but on a whole I thought it worked well enough. Climbing the cage is rather painless but not effortless. Navigating the Hell in a Cell is almost as seamless as a quote-unquote proper console release. There's a nice bit where you can actually use the pointer on the Wii Remote to pick out your weapon under the ring in Extreme Rule contests. It's just too bad this pointer function couldn't have been used in other functions, like typing out names in the creation suites. Either that or using the directional pad or something, or I don't know. Speaking of which, you still have the options to create your superstar or diva, as well as your custom entrances and customize your movesets. They're about on par as what you get on the PlayStation 2 if nothing else, except of course for the bits that are specific to the Wii's waggle control setup, but still, it's generally a step above the previous game on the Wii. So, in terms of graphics, Smackdown vs. Raw 2009 is on par with the PlayStation 2 version of the game. The character models are about as lifelike as you can get on the hardware, the various arenas are well rendered and match up with the actual pay-per-view and TV show sets, the entrance sequences are adequately replicated on the hardware with all the bells and whistles to be admired, there's a few clipping occasions, the camera's kinda wonky at times, the crowd kinda looks like crap, blah blah blah. In general, the game looks fine, I can't really complain about it. Just gets to a point where all these games start to look alike, save from slight skin tweaks, set changes, and swapping of new faces. The same could be said for the sound. You still have the majority of entrance musics, show musics, and some licensed music tracks for good measure. The sound effects are there, nothing major done here, it's still high quality sounding stuff, it's just nothing groundbreaking. Commentary again is nothing special, pretty much recycled from the past couple SVRs. Well, most of it at least. There's some new commentary in the Road to WrestleMania campaigns at least. Sound to me is the same old deal, but it's on the Wii, it's not the PlayStation 2. You know, you play many of these games, they start to sound and look alike, particularly on the same platform, so yeah. To the poor soul who freaked out because I didn't give Smackdown vs. Raw 2008 for Wii glowing praise, if you somehow chance upon this thing, you could rest easy. Smackdown vs. Raw 2009 for Wii is a substantial improvement and far superior to the 2008 iteration. Mind you, if waggle controls don't do it for you, this will give you little incentive to change your mind on the matter. But if you did get some enjoyment out of 2008, then 2009 is more of the same, but with more stuff, and it works a bit better than before. This feels like a more complete game, and as such, it's a much more engaging and, dare I say it, much more enjoyable product as a result. Definitely one worth checking out if you could find a copy for cheap, and if you don't mind a little waggle in your wrestling titles.